Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so excited that you are all here today. For those of you who don't know me, I am Allison Cooper, the founder and CEO of Influencer Secrets Academy. And today I'm so excited to introduce you all to Steffi, who you can find online at Your Content Bestie. She is an Instagram strategist and social media manager. So we are going to dive into the number one conversation that all influencers are having right now. So first, Steffi, can you just share a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I'm Steffi, aka Your Content Bestie. I am an Instagram agency owner. I do social media, but I specialize in Instagram. I'm a corporate dropout. I worked in 10 years in corporate marketing and sales. And I one day just said, I do not want to be here anymore. And I started pursuing a life of social media and getting into content. And here we are 5 years later. I now have a full-time social media agency and I work with brands and influencers every day.
Love that. I love that story too. I am also a corporate dropout, so I can relate to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can.
Right? It's not where many people want to be these days. And, with the ability to work from home and do your own thing, like, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I'm going to dive in because we have got a lot to cover.
Right.
So first, you're helping creators simplify their content strategy and actually see results. What do you think most influencers are getting wrong about Instagram right now?
I think a lot of people, what they're getting wrong per se is that they see what somebody else is doing. They see a model. They see, when I say a model, they see a method that somebody is using or that someone's using or doing to be successful. And they think I could just take that and copy and paste it into my lifestyle and then take that and run with it. And a lot of people think that because they're doing what someone else that's already successful is doing, that they're going to be successful. And I think people are missing the mark on showing people the real you. And I think that a lot of people aren't starting out with who they are and showing people that and building an audience based around that. I think a lot of people start with what's working for other people, what's popular, and how can I kind of make it my own, when really what you should be doing is kind of almost aimlessly posting about your passions and the things that you're into and relatable things that happen in your life so that people can, one, get to know you, but two, really see the ins and outs of your life and feel that connection and that relatability to you, which is why people end up with fan bases. So big TikTokers, for example, that have had people following them since they started posting their very first video. It's because they kind of kept that consistency of this is me. And I've never kind of strayed away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big data person. So I feel like when you're just starting out on your Instagram journey, it's important to get that baseline.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to throw all the stats out the window, do all of the, the things, testing things out and see where your baseline falls. And then you can kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like you said, it's experimenting, it's throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks. And I mean, also maybe not sticking too much to trends too, because I think that's another thing I see people doing wrong in a sense is they really stick with a lot of trends. And you have to think about so also depends on your platform because the audience and the data on TikTok's a little bit different than Instagram, right? If your audience is let's say you're a Gen Z and your audience is Gen Z, TikTok is going to be a really great platform for you. However, you need to make sure that you are creating content that's relatable to that audience, right? So using the words that they're using the audios that they're using, that kind of shtick. Whereas if you're on Instagram, millennials are kind of a little bit more, on Instagram, or they're more of the user base on Instagram. So I feel sometimes the tactics of content that works well on Instagram is a little bit more tailored towards a millennial or an older kind of, demographic. However, obviously there are Gen Z on there. So what I'm trying to say is just know your audience, know what they're looking for, and know the kind of content they're already consuming instead of assuming what they would like.
Yeah, I love that. I feel I have new followers, but my core audience has been with me from gosh, when did Instagram launch? A long time ago.
2000 something.
And so everyone's kids are now the same age as my kids. And it's interesting, how all of that evolves.
You grow up together. Even for me, I post all of my Instagram stories on my Facebook, and all the people I went to high school with, we're all the same age roughly. And like, a lot of them are entrepreneurs now. So we've all been following each other for so long. So it's interesting to like inadvertently advertise to all my peers and stuff.
Yeah. I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about the algorithm changes, right? How should influencers be thinking about growth in 2025, taking the algorithm into consideration?
So it's not the same as it used to be. Like, so I watch a lot of interviews with Adam Mosseri, and he's always talking about authenticity, creating content that resonates with people, and things that are obviously really vague. And so I think with the algorithm, like I try to personally, for me and my clients, I try to let go of what I think the algorithm is doing, and I focus on who's following them. What do they want to see, and how can I continue to keep touch points with those people? Because it's a little bit different when you're just trying to warm up the people that are following you versus somebody that just wants to get brand new people they don't even know in following them. There's different approaches you have to take, and you can't blame the algorithm for the fact that your content is bringing in new people, because a lot of it is based on like your own patterns as well. So who are you engaging with? How are you engaging with them? And then does your content also fit what your like own actions are as well? So I really think it's like making sure that you know exactly what your niche is, creating content that's going to resonate with them, being consistent, because again, the algorithm needs to see you're consistently posting. It won't know how to categorize your content if you're not consistently posting content that it can categorize. And that's where keywords come in too, right? So hashtags are essentially, and they apparently were never the key driver in visibility. So I want people to kind of like drop that whole like hashtags are going to get more eyes, because hashtags actually are like keywords, right? Hashtags and keywords, literally keywords from SEO, but also keywords on Instagram. They're all keywords, hashtags as well. So it just categorizes your content. So you need to be able to make sure you're using the correct hashtag so that the algorithm can categorize your content. But don't think that because you used or didn't use that hashtag that it's going to make or break the visibility or the reach on your post, because that's just not the case anymore. So I think it's really, you're going to need to repeat yourself. You're going to make sure that you post similar content and make sure all your keywords categorize that content appropriately. And then also keep checking and looking out there and doing research of what are people like engaging with, what means the most to them. But then the last thing I'm going to say that people don't always love this answer is like, let go of how each post performs, because not every single post is going to perform well. So you need to look at the ones that kind of stick out and then try to, you know, either repurpose those or build on those, or kind of look for any indicators in the data that you can see that maybe we're like, oh, this had more shares. So maybe it was like something people felt like resonated and they would share it with someone else that they felt it resonated with. Oh, this had more saves. So maybe it was more educational or valuable in people's minds. So they're going to come back to it later, or they want to come back to it later, right? Not everybody does, but I think those
are a question actually that just popped in my head, talking about hashtags. Do you have a recommended like number of hashtags you like to use? Because you say, okay, we're using them as keywords, and you think, I think I'm still like blogger first, everything else second. So, you know, when you're optimizing a blog post, you're kind of sticking to 2, maybe 3 keywords at the very, very most.
Right.
Is it different for Instagram?
For Instagram, there are, I used to do hashtag research for people as a service. And so one of the things I've found in hashtags are there's tons of synonyms in hashtags. So you think of a synonym when it comes to words, just other ways to say it, right? So there's tons of different hashtags that all are like the same hashtag or the same topic or the same type of content, but they're worded differently. So you need to do a little research to see, you know, the people that are using these hashtags, is our content consistent within like the same stream? Like, are we trying to reach the same people? Just to make sure that if you're using a hashtag, you're obviously using it because you feel it relates to what you're doing. So make sure the other people using it relate, just to validate the fact that it's a good hashtag. In terms of the numbers, I would say 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 is typically all Instagram asks for. I guess it's kind of similar to the blog, because the reason you'd only use 2 in a blog is to not confuse SEO, right? You want to hit for 2 keywords, but you want to have them all throughout the blog so that you have a higher rank. And so it's kind of like that on Instagram as well. But again, they don't want you to repeat the same hashtags over and over. So that's why synonyms come in, which is why I mentioned them first, because there could be other hashtags that you could just have in your list that you just replace every time. But Adam Mosseri has said 3 to 5. A lot of other big names like Brock Johnson have said 3 to 5. And I don't love always taking the advice from those really, really big names. But at the same time, I think that there's a reason why everybody's saying that. And so I typically don't use more than 5. I feel like 9 is like the max I would use if I feel like I really need to like hammer in more hashtags.
Okay. Do you feel like it matters the placement of the hashtags? Does it, how big of a pool does that give?
I don't know, like personally, because I'm a social media manager, I don't have time to worry too much about all of those little things. And I think if you're overthinking that, you lost the point, to be honest. Like, I think that the placement at the end of the day, like you could listen to what all these people have to say about where to place them and whatever. I mean, I personally think that they're there to categorize the content. So where you place them doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you don't like how they look, put them at the bottom. But one thing I'll say about hashtags is hashtags in your bio don't do anything. So there's absolutely no need to have a hashtag in your bio. If you really want it, you can. But the only reason to do that would maybe to be promote your own hashtag. But again, hashtags aren't the same as they used to be. Like you can't even see recent posts on hashtags anymore. So it's like they don't categorize them the way they used to. I was just listening to this interview with Adam and Brock the other day where they were talking about that.
Yeah, that's a great tip, and everybody should watch that interview. It was good.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Awesome. So you teach so much about creating content that converts. What are the key elements of a post to that not only gets engagement but drives action?
There's a lot of variables. And again, it all goes back to what people have said about the algorithm and, things that really matter in terms of like timing and like the style of the post and all those things. I think the main key elements are one, an engaging caption. I think obviously you need that. If it's a reel, you want to make sure that the text on the reel and the caption complement each other and that it makes sense, like what your point is on the reel. If you're trying to drive people down to the caption to view it, you want to make sure you do that in a catchy way, in a quick way too, so that you don't lose people's attention. And like the first 30 seconds is obviously the most important. In terms of a post, I think really making sure you have the right keywords in there and hashtags to categorize the post. I think the topic itself needs to be well researched. So that's obviously something that you want to make sure that that content's researched enough to know it would probably resonate with your audience. And then timing, I think, can have a bit of a factor to do with it. However, I do think the activities you do before and after a post really help in terms of like the reach and the visibility. So engaging before you post, engaging with people that viewed your last post, right after you post, those types of things can help it perform well. So those would be like the main factors, I would say.
Great advice. So for nano and micro influencers who feel stuck at like that 1,000 to 10,000 range, what is your biggest advice for getting out of the plateau and seeing real momentum?
Yeah, so people are going to hate this answer, but it's removing followers. Now, hear this with a grain of salt. So if you want to actually grow, the algorithm needs to see people engaging with your content. They need to see it's resonating. They need to see proof that it's working, essentially. Now, if you have 3,000, let's say you have 10,000 people following you, and only a small percent, like 3% of them actually engage with your content or are even active on the platform, that's going to be a problem for you. So I always tell people to start getting rid of the inactive followers so that you can get more engagement from your current followers. So step one, remove the people that are inactive and any bot accounts, your aunt that's never on the platform and always, followed you just to support you, but never goes on or only just likes your posts, whatever. Remove her. We don't need her. Second of all, you want to engage with the people that are already engaging with you and already following you, right? So then you want to kind of create, like my advice would be create a list, put in all the names every day of the week or however many days a week you want to do it. Just start engaging with those people try it for 30 days. You'll get a lot more engagement on your posts from those people than you did without actually outwardly engaging with them. So that's the second step. The third step is to then go find new people and put yourself out there to be visible in the areas or communities you want to be seen. So if you're a lifestyle influencer in Toronto, you want to be following all of the other lifestyle influencers. You want to be following the big accounts. You want to be following cafes, brands, entrepreneurs, like anybody that you could really like network with, communities and publications typically.
Got it. So for anybody who doesn't know, what is like the easiest way to go through and remove inactive followers?
Yeah, so usually, in the people that you're following, it will say who you least interacted with. That doesn't mean that they're inactive. However, you can go and see if there's anybody in there that you're following that's following you back. In the actual like following me tab, what I would do is flip it to earliest. So see who started following you first. And then you can kind of go through like in chronological, is that chronological order?
Yeah.
Whatever that word means. And go through and remove those people, because I'm going to tell you right now, probably the people that have been following the longest are the least active, unless it's like, that you had other people that are active on the platform following you from the beginning kind of thing. Like if you just started to count from scratch and within the first 60 days that you had it, that it was all influencers and other lifestyle creators that were following you. Okay, chances are probably all those people are active because they're doing the same thing as you. So they're probably active, but you just want to check and see, right? Like you want to remove any bot accounts or any other accounts. So I would start at the earliest.
Okay, great tip. So let's shift to content planning. This is one of my favorite topics because I am like such a planner. Yeah. What is your go-to method for building a content strategy that doesn't burn you out, but still grows your audience and brand?
Yeah, I love this question because it's something I talk to people about all the time. And really, it's just like evaluate your lifestyle first. Evaluate your time, evaluate your schedule, your own motivation, just like at a sitting on the couch level. How active or motivated are you to do the things you would need to do to be able to be that consistent? So like you look at like somebody and you're like, oh, they're doing so well. They're doing so great. Like, I want to do that. And you set your bar very high, right? You're like, I need to post every day. I need to post even 3 days a week is too much for some people. So I always say like, let's bring it back to the bare minimum. Can you be consistently posting once a week, every week? Can you do that? If you can do that, then I give you permission to set your bar higher. But if that's not realistic with you, and there's nothing wrong with it if it's not realistic, you just have to figure out what is and then start there, right? So a lot of people think like, oh, I can't start because I can't post 3 times a week. That doesn't mean you won't be successful. Start with once a week and see where that goes. Sometimes you have to test your own abilities first before you can start to kind of go anywhere from there. So I always recommend try to post once a week on your actual feed. And then on your stories, it's easy to post stories every day. So that's not like normally not a problem for anybody. When it comes to strategizing, that's obviously where they lack that knowledge. But I think that if it's once a week, that's the bare minimum, and that's where you should start.
Got it. Love that. So you're a social media manager too. So you see the back end of a lot of brands analytics. What is one thing you wish that more influencers would do behind the scenes to build long-term success?
That's a good question. I actually love this because I see it from a brand's perspective. We would love your support just the same way we support you guys. And I don't mean like pay us, send us money. I mean like follow us, engage with our content, not when we're working together. Like when we're not working together, I want to know and I want to see that you love my content. Like obviously you don't have to love all the content, but like my content a few times a week, share our posts. Like if you're doing that, you're going to set yourself, like you're going to make yourself stand out and set yourself apart from other influencers and the other content creators, because at the end of the day, like a brand is going to scratch your back if you scratch theirs. So I think that's so important.
Yeah, that's a great tip. So when it comes to pitching and attracting brands, how important is your Instagram content? What are brands really looking for on your feed before saying yes to a partnership?
That is dependent on whether you're doing UGC or content creation, like as like an actual influencer or a UGC person. However, UGC, they want to see your skills, right? So flex your skills, flex your editing, flex your video creation skills, like make sure that you're basically using your Instagram as a portfolio to show your knowledge and your ability of your skills and how to do the work that they'd want you to do. You don't need a ton of followers, you don't need a ton of engagement. They just need to be able to see that you're actually able to do what they would want you to do and that you can think outside of the box. Now, for influencers, I think they want to see, one, that you are able to maybe either influence people a bit. So yes, I know that numbers are a little bit more important when it comes to straight influencing, but again, I think it's just consistency, showing that you're able to consistently post content, consistently try to engage your community. Maybe you show like in your stories things that people respond to you. Like if you can show social proof of the engagement you're getting, because again, a brand can't see your numbers from just looking at your profile. So you have to make sure that they can literally see, whether it's in your highlights, on your story, on your feed, that you're influencing or like at least getting people to give you some sort of feedback, right? Whether they're like, oh my God, me too, I feel that way, or please tell me more about this restaurant, or whatever it is, the brands need to be able to see that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I also say, don't be afraid to screenshot your analytics and share with them. Like, the more transparent that you are with the brand, the better chances that you have of closing that brand deal.
To add just to that point, I guess a tip that I would have is, why don't you create a pinned post that's basically like your portfolio on your page? So like, hey brands, look here. And then you wouldn't have to worry about all the back end. But see, businesses do that, creators don't do that. So it's kind of funny to me like that we don't see creators doing that as much. So I would
that's a good idea. It's a good idea. So let's chat reels, carousels, static posts. What's the current mix you recommend for creators trying to stay visible without the need to post daily?
So I really think, reels are doing well, carousels are doing well again, especially in like the influencer creator space. I think that carousels do really well, especially when they're super simple. I have a content creator client. She's a travel content creator, but she's slow travel. So she's not about all the aesthetics or, all the fancy places to get coffee and stuff like that. But she's really about like building the connections, the true meaning of travel. And carousels are doing so well for her, just like the simplest designs. And personally for like myself as well, I find those perform well. So it's almost like an ode to TikTok, or like taking something from TikTok. Because remember, people on TikTok started doing those really simple photo carousels and stuff. And so that's transpired onto Instagram now. And then reels, I think obviously still do well, but more like vlog reels, like a day in the life, POV, or like just like, I'm literally a mess, but this is my life type of situation. Like people actually really, really resonate with that because they're like, I'm not alone. And so I think those two pieces of content really are all you need. I think single posts are still okay, depending, like if you're a fashion influencer or lifestyle influencer, you can still get away with posting a single post with a cute caption and people will like it. But I think a good mix of like reels, carousels, and then one or two single posts. Like if you're doing 3 days a week, one of each. If you're doing 4 days a week, maybe 2 reels, 2 carousels, 1 single, something like that.
Get the mix in there.
Yeah.
So you're all about building systems that support your business. What are some of your favorite tools or processes for managing content and staying consistent?
Yeah, so one I really like to use is Asana. For me, there's so many parties involved in creating a piece of content. There's my editor, there's the person that, helps me with this or that on the side. I usually write the captions and come up with all the ideas. Then there's the client. Then the client has to get involved. So if there's other parties, like, if you're working with a brand and they don't have their own content system to manage or, do communications or feedback, you might want to have your own. And I don't know how it always works on that end, but you might want to have your own way of organizing things so that you can make sure that the communications and all the stages are being completed accordingly and everybody knows. And then obviously there's Canva, which is like the number one tool to use. But in terms of systems, I think Instagram now allows you to schedule in the platform. If you don't want to use that, as a good system is like Loomly or even Canva allows you to schedule through there. So I think definitely having like a content management system like Asana where you can keep track of everything, and then a scheduler. I think those are like, and then an analytics platform. Those are all the three that you need.
Yes, I second Asana. I'm an Asana girl. You can't get me away from it. Like that is bam.
Is that a millennial thing or?
And it must be. It's seriously, it must be because it's just like I just love all the capabilities that it has. I mean, and I just use the free version, so it's like it's just me right now. So it's like hey, it works.
Yep.
All right. So last question, just for fun. What's your go-to Instagram secret that always surprises your clients but totally changes the game once they try it?
This is a tough one because there isn't necessarily one answer per se, but I think one of the things that I do with my clients is I try to make them get involved. So it's not like a secret per se, but as a social media manager, I don't think a lot of people do this is, I really get to know my clients and ask them like, what is your lifestyle like? And then I provide them prompts. So if I know they have kids, I know like I have a client that's a realtor. She has a kid. She has two kids. She has a dog. She has a husband. So I always send her like prompts of stories, like show me what you guys did on the weekend, show me like the dance competition. So I get her to send me the personal content instead of go on and create it herself so that I basically pretend to be you. And people don't even know that. So like I posted it, but people think it was you, so I'll even have some clients like pre-create talking videos and stuff and then send them to me. So like that's like a social media manager secret. I don't know about a secret necessarily for Instagram, but you can literally pre-record everything and then post it later. So I guess that would kind of be the secret.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Because I feel like so long ago when the platform was just created, everything was in real time. And now it's not. Everything's, planned and it's shifted. So you got to shift with it.
It's funny because we wanted to have these very like free for all lifestyles and stuff, but everything still has to be planned and scripted and scheduled. And it's really funny, but sometimes that helps because then it gives you more time to do what you love. So
absolutely. Love it. Well, thank you so much for all your words of wisdom today. I know that I learned so much and I'm sure everybody did as well. So thank you again for being here. And thank you all for tuning in. All right, until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.